Thank you for joining us today. I'm Janet McKee, speaker, best-selling author, wellness expert, and founder of SanaView with my partner in crime, my son, business partner, and our company tech support, videographer, photographer, you name it, he does it for our company, SanaView. And we're so thrilled to be here today because we have information that we no longer can keep to ourselves. We have got to get out there and share with you so many things that are going to improve your lives. And we are ready to begin with a brand new podcast series that we've been playing around with, working with, doing some other things. But every week, with the research that I've been doing to continue to develop information to share with you, especially now going into my soon to be released next book, every week Nathan and I sit down and have a heart-to-heart conversation. We talk about how these teachings affect our lives, our awareness of what we're learning and how it impacts what's happening in our lives and in the lives of the people we teach and that we work with. And every week, these conversations are so incredibly valuable that we finally said, we have got to share this with people. Every week we sit down and have these incredible conversations, and it's like, everyone should have heard this conversation we just had. It would improve the lives of many, many people. We decided to no longer keep them to ourselves. And we are going to begin to share this with you on a regular basis. We've been developing the SanaView site, our Triumphant Life course. We started playing around with the Triumphant Life podcast. We have done all of this work to develop our skills that we are now bringing this to you officially, formally, in the most incredible and dramatic way. So you are fortunate to be joining us here at the very beginning of a program that we just can't say enough about. Thank you again for being here, and thank you, Nathan, for agreeing to join me.
Absolutely.
In these incredible conversations. Yeah. Growing up with you has just been joyful beyond measure. I know you would say, and Mom would say that, but no, this is very different. This connection that you and I have is very powerful. It's very real. We always comment. I mean, ever since Nathan was little, he would come to work with me. I was developing the investment properties that we did, and we were always very close. And you would have thought as he got older that we would, grow more apart. But we noticed that more and more as we develop our business and continue to research ideas to help you. Of course, they also help us, which is why we share them with you. Then the more our bond seems to grow stronger and closer. And now we're like just both of us incorporating our teachings and practicing on a daily basis.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the thing that I want to say specifically about the conversations that we have is it's not a planned thing. We don't say we're going to take an hour today and chat about this stuff. It applies to our lives so much that the conversations just happen by accident, and it just happens to be that it tends to be about something that you were talking to me about that's going to be something that's in your book or something like that. Like all of these things really play, at least into my life, and I know they play into your life too, and I find that to be kind of the most interesting thing, is that the conversations just happen.
And they're happening too because we keep practicing what we're teaching.
Right.
We keep practicing, we keep becoming more aware every day, every week, to what these teachings mean in our lives and how to use them to improve our lives. And because we're students of our own teachings, because we're researching this information, we can share with each other.
Right.
What happened, what we learned from the situation, how we incorporated what we've been studying and researching, how we can incorporate that to improve aspects of our lives. And also when we struggle. when we're struggling with one of the teachings or an aspect of the teachings, or we think we're making strides forward until we hit a wall or we find ourselves stepping back. And that's often we get together and say, can you believe what happened to me today? How can we look at this in a different way?
Yeah.
And the fact that we're living it, we're learning from it, we realize that we want you to benefit the same.
Right, and that's why we're going to use this, this podcast as kind of like a platform to also talk about the times where we are struggling, is because this is something where we deal with things every day and we interact with different people, and sometimes people are more difficult than others or situations are harder than others, and I find that it's very easy to say 1, 2, 3, this is exactly what we're teaching you and this is what you have to do, but then you're obviously going to run into things that are hard, and I mean, we have that happen to us all the time, and so I think by us communicating that to everybody that's listening or watching this podcast, I think that's going to be something that you find to be helpful, I hope.
And you will get the most benefit from to be able to take these teachings and really apply them in your life. Like you said, it's not just, here's step 1, 2, and 3, go do it, bye.
Yeah.
It's, okay, you're going to start doing it, here's what's going to happen, we're going to start incorporating some things. Right. And here we are live on this podcast, and there's thunder in the background. Right. So I think that's a sign that we're going to break new ground here with with the sound of thunder coming forward.
And one more thing that I want to add that I'm really excited about is for everybody that's watching this podcast, this is going to be available on iTunes podcasts where you can subscribe to it. So you will get notifications whenever we have a new episode go up. And I think that's something that everybody should go do once that's available. And I'm sure we'll send out an email or something when that's
so this will be at least a weekly thing, because we have these conversations every week and we just want to share them with you. And this particular initial formal episode is coming to you the night before I go to Santa Barbara, California, to spend 2 days with Jack Canfield and his wife at their home with a small group of authors, because we get an opportunity to mastermind with Jack Canfield personally about the books that we're writing. And Nathan has known I have been teaching and inspiring people for decades. But never in decades did I have an opportunity until the past few years to meet people like Jack Canfield. And yes, I'm out meeting people, searching for solutions, joining groups, and interacting, but I always did that. I was always doing that as part of gathering information to share with my audience. But what has happened in the past year and a half, really, basically, is these incredible opportunities are landing in my lap that never used to happen before. Like, since when does Janet McKee get to go spend 2 days at Jack Canfield's home? And if you don't know Jack Canfield, he's a multi-million New York Times bestselling author of Chicken Soup for the Soul and that whole Chicken Soup series. He is one of the leading authors in my industry. Like, when does this happen? It happens because I have been applying what I am researching and what I am teaching you to my own life. Coming at the heels of a year solid of pure depression and disaster in my life. And we'll talk about that later, but I was always a high achiever and had achieved success in my life, but hit some really serious walls. Serious walls in every area of my life, from my health, that was one wall I hit. Relationship, when my husband, Nathan's father, left in an hour's notice. Financial, hit a wall. I hit a wall in just about every area that's important to your life. And because of those walls that I hit, it sent me out in the world to find solutions to a better life. I knew life could be better, but I didn't know how to make it happen. I was trying different things. I would go to different seminars, spend time with different mentors and gurus from around the world, and I would see some benefit, but it was only when we started to truly put things together in the way that we're going to share with you that the difference has become apparent. And if we're going to share with you, let me tell you, you are not going to hear anywhere else. You're going to hear a lot of these concepts in other places, but nowhere where we put it together, anywhere, put it together in the most powerful way to get the most powerful solutions. I can't even wait to get to the podcast episodes where we really dig down deep and uncover what I feel is the secret to life. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound so, arrogant about that. It's not. It's not coming from arrogance. It's coming from a desire to help you, a desire to get you to improve your life just like we are experiencing ourselves. So it's the night before I get on a flight to Santa Barbara, California to spend 2 days with Jack Canfield about my upcoming book. I am so excited. And I cannot wait to share with you not only some of my time there with Jack Canfield, I'm going to record some of it, but also then with you next week more about that whole experience. But this is what happens. This is what happens when you begin to live a life of what I call stressless success. This is what happens when you begin to be in the flow. Right? I mean, think about this. The athletes, the best athletes, right? They're in their flow. They're in their zone, right? They've got it happening because they're letting it all happen. Those juices are flowing. The energy is flowing. They're not blocking their success. And so a lot of people believe that in order to achieve success, we've got to stress and struggle. We've got to kill ourselves, work as hard. We've got to give up things that we love to do in our lives to achieve success.
Well, it's the grind. Everybody talks about the grind. It's all over the internet now where it's like you have to grind, 40 hours, a week or 80 hours a week even. And it's like, okay, at some point that grind just starts to sound like this grueling thing that you have to do. And it just, I don't know. It's not the right mentality to have, I don't think.
It's actually the opposite.
Right.
This is what is incredible about the book that I'm writing and what we're going to be teaching you here is the more you stress, the less success you'll actually have. So a lot of people out there say, oh, no, I worked really hard, I stressed and struggled, I got to some level of success. Well, the truth is, they have no idea where they ultimately could have landed if they learned what we're going to teach. They would have been at this level of success. Because what we find is when you look at the situations that cause you stress that you're concerned about, and you learn what we're going to teach you about shifting your viewpoint of that challenge, of that situation, and it begins by becoming aware of the thoughts that you're choosing around that, all of a sudden, stress begins to diminish, and then you elevate your thoughts, your moods, your emotions, and that's what opens the door to flow, to have things flow to you, to get you in your zone, to elevate your energy vibration. So it's actually the opposite of what people think about achieving success, is what is going to get you to greater levels of success. So we're going to actually teach you this podcast how to create more joy, more happiness first. And when you get to that, you then will see success come to you more easily.
And it's also, it's not when, I think that this is the opposite of the grind. It's not that we're saying you can sit around and do nothing and achieve success and sit around and, watch TV all day and be happy and just have this success show up. You still have to work for things, and you still have to communicate with people and deal with people and, network with people and make the moves that you need to make, but it's doing that in a way that's not killing you on the inside. And you don't end up at the end of the workday drained and exhausted and you just want to go to bed. Like, there's a way to do things where it's like you can still do all the things that you need to do to be successful, but just you don't kill yourself.
That is a brilliant point, Nathan, because when you've got to take action, but we're going to give you through all those steps of understanding what you want, setting your goals, getting you to raise your awareness of your thoughts and your energy, then you take action. When you take action from a place of stress and struggle, from this concept of like being in the grind, you don't get the right results. And so then you have to struggle more to get any amount of result that you're even wishing for. If you take action from those bad places of thoughts and moods and emotions, you're not going to get what you need. But you still need to take action.
Right.
So it's absolutely critical, and that was your point. We're not saying you're just going to sit around and meditate or watch Netflix.
right.
We are going to teach you how to get to that greater place of thinking and being. And then when you take action, a couple things happen. Number one, the action is enjoyable. You're not struggling. You are flowing. It's no longer work. It's not a grind when you love what you're doing. But that's a choice that we're going to teach you make.
I feel like that's a good segue into what this episode is all about, which is awareness, because that is the first thing that you need to do to start to change your thoughts, is be aware of the thoughts that you are thinking. Because I think it's easy for a lot of people, and I know I do this too, to just, you kind of go through a day and you end up exhausted at the end of the day, but you weren't really paying attention to how you were feeling or how you were feeling after certain things happened. And so I think obviously awareness is like the most important thing to starting on this journey to stressless success.
Exactly. Awareness of your thoughts. So you also mentioned a very important thing. You end the day exhausted. You're exhausted because you live a life of resistance. And resistance is another way of saying stress and struggle. We put up walls of negative thinking and limitation and these beliefs and patterns that we have of everything's going to be hard, everything's going to be a struggle, this isn't going to work out, that you are exhausted by the end of the day because you've lived your day trying to climb these walls or try to like deal with these walls.
Right.
When you open yourself up by choosing better thoughts, do you feel the difference of that? You break down those walls of resistance. That's when opportunities, solutions, all kinds of things flow to you. And then you end the day feeling energized. If you're, you're just ready for bed, it's time to sleep, it's a joyful place to be where you're ready to have rest. Okay, we all need rest. We're going to talk about that in another episode. But it's that living in resistance. Remember the time many years ago we went to Hawaii?
Yeah.
And for some reason that trip, I don't remember how old you were, but...
Yeah, neither do I, but I very much so remember not sleeping very much on that trip.
We did not need to sleep. It was this weirdest thing. Do you remember that? We were so much in the flow. It was like this experience that I can't even completely describe, but we noticed we were so calm, so peaceful, so joyful, so happy to be there. There was no stress that we've noticed we didn't have to sleep.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, and so I don't remember too much about that trip because I was much younger than I am now. I do very much so remember that one specific thing about the trip is just the feeling of no resistance. You didn't have anything that was causing you any sort of emotional pain. It was just like a nice, very relaxing, energetic sort of feeling.
I remember we stayed up watching a Disney movie.
Yeah.
We'll have to remember what movie that was. It was a super cool movie.
Yeah, I can't remember the name. I can't remember the name of the movie.
I know, we loved it. And so anyway, that's the whole thing you brought up about resistance. You
Right.
don't have, and you can live your day feeling fully energized and have clear thinking when you live the way we're going to teach you. And that is the whole part of the solution. So the idea here is, what do you need to be aware of?
Yeah.
You need to be aware of just the thoughts you're choosing. Aware of the fact that this is a choice you're making. And I talk often about how it affects our day. You know, sometimes you get up out of bed and just like right away you're thinking, this day, oh, I don't know about this. And then you get up and you stub your toe at the end of the bed and you're like, oh, and then you're like, oh no, this is gonna be just an awful day. And then the next thing you know it, the next thing goes wrong and the next thing goes wrong. And we know this, right? We
100%.
know. And it so happens sometimes. But so the whole day, and at the end of the day, you're like, I should have stayed in bed. Just stayed in bed today. But then you have those days where you wake up and you're like, oh, you feel hopeful of the day and everything. And then you're like, wow, I had the best day ever. Well, you're creating that.
Yeah.
You're creating that situation. And we recently have, I think it's kind of a humorous story.
Yeah.
It was just last week, wasn't it? Or 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago, I think.
During our weekly conversation. And you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a perfect real life example of how being aware is being aware is a very powerful thing. And it's all about what you do with your awareness. But let me kind of start from the top, which is I have been a car enthusiast my entire life. And with that comes a lot of pride in my car. And so, you know, this is something that I like for it to be very clean. It has over 100,000 miles, but it doesn't have a scratch on it. I do everything that I can to take really good care about it because I take a lot of pride in it.
It has 100,000 miles because he drives everywhere, by the way.
Yeah, I do. I drive a lot, but you know, I love driving.
And a race car driver.
And so I had to go on about a 500, 600 mile road trip. And at the start of the conversation, you know, I had politely asked to not take my car. It needed a couple things. And so I knew that I just kind of wanted to avoid the wear and tear. Ultimately, we ended up taking my car, and even though on the outside I was fine with it because I didn't want to cause a big deal over, you know, maybe what shouldn't be a big deal, but I knew deep down that I was kind of bothered about it because I wanted to avoid putting the miles on the car. And so I get to where I need to go, and I'm looking out the window as hail starts to come down, and instantly I knew there was just going to be hail damage on the car. And I have done everything that I can to, you know, park away from people to avoid door dings and, you know, whatever else. And I was watching the hail come down on the car. And I was so disappointed because I had asked to not take my car. We ended up taking the car, and here's something that was bad that was happening to the car. And after I was already bothered about that, we were driving on the way home, and the check engine light comes on and it starts running like junk. And I knew at that point that I was doing this to myself. I was attracting all of these things to happen. I was so frustrated. I was just like, bring it on. Let's just put this thing on a tow truck. I hope it breaks down. I was so irritated. Part of that is because I was so aware of the fact that I was attracting all these things. It's not easy to instantly switch from being aggravated about something to being joyful about something. Obviously, I wasn't going to jump for joy that hail was falling on the car, but I knew that I was aware of the fact that this was making me feel bad, and I was not in a position where I felt like I was strong enough to change that. And so I knew the whole time, ever since the hail was falling, that I was attracting all of these problems. And I don't know what I should have done in that, you know, in that situation to kind of change the outcome.
Well, you told me that as each problem accumulated and accumulated, Nathan
I was so
like,
frustrated.
You were like, okay, bring it on, right?
Yeah, right.
Bring on more problems. Just have my car just break down. I mean, you were just...
exactly. I was so frustrated, and it was like I knew I was attracting it, but I couldn't stop it. I was just irritated, and...
So let me explain. Some of you out there might say, well, Nathan didn't create the hail. Nathan didn't create the fact that the car started to sound bad. Well, we're sharing with you concepts that at first might seem unbelievable, but bear with us because we're going to share with you real life concepts, real life examples, but concepts based on results that we're witnessing with ourselves and with our clients. But these are also concepts that are now based on scientific research. And that is what's unbelievable somewhat, is that what we're about to explain to you here is that your thoughts do create your reality. And research is coming out that's beginning to make that more and more apparent. Now, we're not going to get into that here today. We've already talked a lot, but just you got to stick with us because you are going to be stunned by what we're going to share with you. Now, I told you about when you wake up in the morning and you stub your toe, the whole day goes bad. You create it through the thoughts that you're choosing.
And I want to say one thing, because I was thinking a lot about this, because you're right, I didn't attract the hail. I mean, that is a thing that happened, but I think what I probably did attract was, as soon as I knew that I was going to be going on this trip, I had instant resistance to the thought of taking my car. And I'm sure that it definitely started there with that resistance, but I wonder if that is the reason ultimately that we ended up taking my car, is because I had so much resistance to that thing. And then, it was just being in the wrong place at the wrong time with the hail. I feel like the hail was going to happen one way or another.
No, but excellent point. You started with resistance, and that resistance led to taking your car, which you didn't want to do. You had resistance, which led to hail damage, and then it started making a noise, and so forth. It's like for years, have been a wellness expert. When I would work with a client that was dealing with cancer, we don't want to fight cancer. When you fight cancer, you give cancer the energy. We want to bring in wellness. Same thing with your negative thoughts. And we're going to teach you how to deal with negative thoughts. We're going to teach you how to live, enjoy, but just bear with us. There's a lot of teachings here that we're going to be talking about every week. But you fought against, in your head, the idea of taking your car. And so what happened? You ended up having to take your car because of the person you were with. So I want you to be aware of what is happening there. But I want you to also know that the resistance and then the negative energy from the negative thoughts about taking your car did put you under those clouds at that time when the hail was coming down. That might be hard to believe, but things then line up because, and we're going to teach you from the research, everything's energy. Everything is energy, down to the smallest part of every cell of everything. Everything is energy, and your thoughts are energy. And when you put out a thought, things around you will line up to either support a successful life when you have successful thoughts and positive thoughts, or they're going to line up for things that are going to hold you back in life. And so that's a very, very deep conversation we really don't want to lead into on this first podcast. But I'm also going to teach you about what's happening neurologically. You have reticular activating system within your brain, which is a filter that you build based on your negative thoughts and limiting beliefs. And you will only see then an outcome that agrees with and matches your filter. Right. These are very deep concepts that we're going to share with you going forward. But it is actually true that we're finding the power of your thoughts will create situations around you. And it is hard to manage your thoughts all the time, but we're only talking today about starting that awareness. Okay. Be aware of when you are feeling good and in the flow and thinking thoughts of appreciation of what's around you. How you end up with a better outcome. So what you could have done, you asked, like, what could I have done? I was feeling resistance. Is first be aware. Be aware of that resistance that you were feeling. Be aware. And then, what thought could I choose instead? And I talk about climbing that ladder from negativity to positivity. But you can't go from stress and resistance to bliss.
Right.
And that's why so many people out there teach about positive thinking, and then people say, don't even tell me about that right now. I don't want to hear about it. I've tried that. It doesn't work, because it doesn't work. You cannot go from here to here in one leap. Yeah. But we start making stuff. But the very first thing is that awareness. I've talked many times about a story about our farm. We own a farm, SanaView Farms, 52-acre historic landmark organic farm. And one year, It rained every day of the month of July, and the people that were renting the farmhouse left for the month of July, and they locked up the house, and in the house was my hemp rug. They came back in August, and the hemp rug had mold on it. We Googled online what to do, and it said put it out in the sun. And when you put it out in the sun, it dissolves the mold. And that's what we're doing with your thoughts. We just want you to shed the light of awareness onto those moldy thoughts, just because they won't change until you're aware of them first. And then we're not going to fight against negativity. We're not going to fight against negative thoughts. What we're going to teach you how to do is how to bring in better thoughts, just slightly better. So you could have said, you know what? I really appreciate the fact that I have this really cool car and it is in such perfect condition that I can take this road trip. I appreciate, right, that the person I'm with, recognizes that I have a great car and we're going to do this. And you could have appreciated the flowers and the trees and the beautiful hillside.
It would have felt a lot better. It would have definitely felt a lot better.
At a minimum. Good point. You would have enjoyed your day more. You would have hit your head in the pillow at the end of the day like, wow, I had a great day. Yeah. Instead.
Right. Well, I think that's the other half of the awareness is not only paying attention to the thoughts and the feelings that don't feel good, but also the things that do feel good and giving that more energy, right?
And that's one of the secrets. Instead of fighting against the negative thoughts, you're not going to get anywhere by fighting, is to bring in a better thought. Replace it and give that. But it takes deliberate intent. It takes deliberate intent of doing that. So the very first thing is that awareness. When you get up in the morning, what thought are you choosing? Just pay attention to it. That's all. Just start being aware that that's a choice you're making. It's a choice you're making every minute of every day. And we've seen from the High Performance Institute, the world's most accomplished people deliberately and intentionally are aware of their thoughts and are choosing thoughts to support a successful life. And again, back to stressless success. The more you're choosing these thoughts, right, of appreciation and joy and fulfillment and all of the things, pride and love, and then your energy shifts. Everything's energy, and so everything shifts around you. That's a lot. That's an earful for today. But we want you to know that we're here with you. We are here with you ongoing. I am dedicating my life to writing this book and sharing these things with you because I want you to experience a better life, a more successful life with more joy, less stress, because that's the key to it. That's how you're going to get there. And I'm going to stick here with you week in, week out, year after year, until you get to where you need to be, where you deserve to be, where I want you to be. And we're going to have so many people flowing into us, what's happening to them and the results we're getting. And let me tell you, the clients I'm working with, it is mind-blowing the results they're getting. And these are incredible people. One is a elected official, politician, one's Harvard PhD. I mean, these are people that at first are like, Janet, I'm not so sure about this, what you're telling me. You're kind of like a little bit unrealistic. My life is such that I have these struggles, whatever. So don't be telling. After several sessions, they get it. And they're like, okay, bring on more, Janet. I want to learn more. This is like affecting my life.
For people who are interested in joining a community of people that are also on this journey towards stressless success, we offer a live group coaching call every month where there's a community of members that have joined, where you go on and you teach and you talk, but you also interact with people. And so it's an interactive community for people that are really looking to better their lives. And I think that would be something that people who are listening to this podcast would be interested in. And also to go and subscribe to the podcast so that you are notified every time that we have a new episode that comes out. And I appreciate, all the time that you spend listening. And if you have any questions, obviously you can always reach out. We're happy to help.
Well, that's actually a way to have that live conversation about your own life experiences, just like Nathan and I do by getting on the live group coaching call. Isn't that brilliant? So we make ourselves available live to have these conversations, these deep, heart-to-heart conversations to help you continue to advance these teachings. This is so exciting. I can't even begin to tell you that we together, us with you, are on the path to a life of stress-free success. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Nathan.
Absolutely.
You're the best. And we are just so excited to be part of changing the world. One podcast at a time.
That's right.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.